Concerns just heard in Patricia's report is senatorial candidate Victor Morales, and he's here tonight to talk about his stand on the issues and the battle against long battle against incumbent Senator Phil Gramm. Mr. Morales, welcome to the show.
How you doing?
Pretty good. Now, for people who don't know your story, which I would find very hard at this point, that somebody somewhere, be it through People Magazine, New York Times, on television, hasn't heard it, how did you begin this whole thing?
It was very simply just an ordinary citizen who decided he had enough and wanted to do something rather than complain. And of course, you could have stuffed envelopes and made phone banks, etc., but I wanted to personally take out Phil Gramm. And so that's why I jumped in that truck and rode around the 72,000 miles to meet as many people as I could, to give them my message and see what they thought, and see if they would decide that I'm the one to replace Phil Gramm. And so now twice we have stunned the experts, I guess.
Now, in the past, they always thought you weren't going to make it to the point you've made it to. Here you go again into a race where the polls are all saying, yeah, he's not going to do it again. What is it you think is going to happen between now and Election Day that's going to give you that advantage?
Well, my hope is that people by now, after 18 years of Phil Gramm, know full well that the ads he's putting on the air are lies and distortions, and that all the people who have told me across the state, black, white, and brown, rich and poor, old and young, who say they're tired of Phil Gramm and want someone that they can relate to, someone that'll tell them the truth, most importantly, will follow through and will work very hard to overcome the millions of dollars that Phil Gramm is spending. If they do follow through, all these people, then we're going to win.
But listening to what you're saying makes me wonder, are you saying I'm a good choice for senator, or I'm just a better choice than Phil Gramm? Because those are very different issues.
Oh, I know. I think I'm an excellent choice if I could brag a little bit. The fact is that as a school teacher for many years, there's many traits that have been developed in my character. One of patience. You must have patience up there. Tenacity. Well, you can tell from my race here that I don't give up. Intelligence to adapt to very many situations and very many different people's opinions. And in trying understanding of the differences of people. And very importantly, teachers have this, and so do policemen and firemen, many other people who serve the community. There is no secret agenda. So I'm up there trying to do the best I can for the right reason, not for my next election or for some special interest. Intelligence I have. I mean, how else could I have achieved what I have achieved? It wasn't pure luck. Right. So those are some very important traits. And then when I've spoken about the issues to people, it seems that I am right there in the moderate middle view where most of Texans are.
Now, speaking of the issues, most people are saying,
sure,
well, he's always saying, I don't know. We were talking about this before you even began. I don't know about this and that. And you're saying this is blown way out of proportion.
Extremely frustrating, because actually I said that once on PBS on how would you fix Social Security? And I said, I don't know. That's something that is going to require a lot of study. The reality is I saw a budget report by Social Security people, a '95 budget report, that talked all about Social Security and problems, and yet still didn't know how to answer that. Now here's people who this is their livelihood. So, but for some reason, the general media has continued to bring this up over and over and over again, when in reality it's very rare I say, I don't know. But for whatever reason, you know, when Phil Gramm does it, doesn't have specifics, no one attacks him for that. Right. That's something that I don't understand.
So then let's talk some of the issues
sure.
here. What are some that you're in favor? What are some of the policies?
Well, campaign reform. Let's talk about campaign reform. Extremely necessary. Many people have gotten very cynical about government because they feel that money buys it, and so they walk away. Maybe that's why we only had 10% vote in the primary. And so I would love to see some campaign reform. A bill that Phil Gramm voted against, I would have voted for. Things like more money coming from Texas rather than out of state, no soft money, less money from PAC interests, and so on. Education is another interest that's very strong to me, not because I'm a teacher of 18 years, but because it touches everything. If we want to bring down affirmative action, bring down welfare, bring down crime, education is a key. Job creation, making Social Security healthier, it's going to be education. So I was a strong supporter of Pell Grants, which help our students continue to go to school. Phil Gramm voted against $9.3 billion in Pell Grants at one time. We're totally opposites on that. So Pell Grants, Head Start, AmeriCorps, I'm for that. Health care is extremely vital to me. To think that there's millions of people, many of them working, most of them working, who don't have health care bothers me greatly. And in seeing this headlines here, Gingrich eyes cut in Medicare growth if GOP holds power. Well, you know, I disagree with Gingrich, but at least he spoke out. Where's Phil Gramm on this issue? The fact is that what I keep hearing around the state of Texas is that Phil Gramm says one thing in Washington on the Senate floor, and then comes over to Texas and takes credit for something else.
But I guess a lot of people would say, okay, there are problems with our health care in this system.
Sure.
And everyone is pointing to that saying, yeah, that is a problem. But then what do you do to solve it? And do you have to have a plan already when you're running to be elected?
No, see, that's a very important point. See, I am aware, Phil Gramm or any of the experts aren't going to tell us that there are definite problems and that reform needs to be made. And you could go any which way on that. Companies that are ripping off Medicare, people, consumers who rip off, who come for unnecessary tests, doctors who, I mean, you could go all over the place. So it's going to require someone who is truly wanting to help and can work with all the different facets of healthcare, who says, yes, we have to reform, yes, there is fraud and waste, let's see where we can get that out before we start making premiums go up extremely high on senior citizens who cannot afford it. Because I heard someone say in Congress, I don't know if it was Gingrich or another, say, well, what's another $19 in premium? Well, I know people who have about $600 plus in Social Security and then plus Medicare, and every dollar is a big hit. Again, my mindset is entirely different, because I am middle-class America, and I've been on poverty levels, so I understand these things. Phil Gramm has lost touch with that long time ago.
Without looking deeper into the issue, is it unfair for me to ask if you're in favor of nationalized health care?
Not completely, no. Not where the government takes over completely, but a good, strong alliance with government more into working with the insurance companies and the medical industry to work something out so we can get these people who don't have health insurance, because you know what? Sooner or later, all of us are going to need it, and we're going to pay for it. And I would much rather have my energies and resources working toward prevention, finding that prostate cancer, that breast cancer, immunizing the children before we end up paying at the end. And saying that government only is the problem is not being a realist. You know, Medicare and Medicaid, Medicare helps 2 million people in Texas. Medicaid, 100,000 people in nursing homes. It helps tremendously the people of Texas.
Yeah, now another thing then, we were talking money a couple seconds ago, and we were talking about campaign funding and stuff. As I understand it, $1.6 million is owed to you, in a sense, from the Democratic committee for your race, and you don't have that money. Why?
Well, that's how much that they could possibly give to me. I don't know if owed to me is a word I would use, but nonetheless, I would hope that after proving that an underdog grassroots campaigner, a regular everyday citizen, could win in 2 races, that would be enough to have the national people start sending that money so I can get my message on TV.
But they don't
Maybe they're leaning on the polls, but I tell you what, those polls don't talk to the people that I do across the state of Texas.
Well, they say that, and you're talking to people across the state of Texas, that if you drove that truck for the rest of your life, you would still only encounter 1% of the electorate.
Yes, but what the people, again, the experts are forgetting is that I speak in front of very large groups all the time, that I have the media everywhere I go, newspapers, radio, TV, so my message is constantly getting out. And when you have, as I did 2 weeks ago, come into Houston on a Monday and Wednesday, 10 different Republicans come up to me, 10 different Republicans at individual times, and say that they're going to vote for me, that tells you how far this like and discuss with Phil Gramm has grown. So it's right there. The ability to beat Phil Gramm, I mean, is right there.
Okay, now before we run out of time with you today, we're going to kind of jump around real quick, give me your views and stuff, since there's not the I don't know out
affirmative action, I've said that from the very beginning, that I support it in some cases, that it needs to be reformed and cleaned up too, but unfortunately there's still a lot of people we refer to as that unknown person in the LA Times said about me, that Latino arrogance, referring to me Latino arrogance, that mindset. Immigration, we must control our borders, we need to have a handle on the illegal aliens, but I would not punish the legal immigrants who have played by the rules and contributing to our society by taking away benefits when misfortune befalls them. Do you want me to go on?
Well, how about crime? Let's jump over to crime.
Well, crime, again, the prevention aspect. My mindset is quite different than Phil Gramm. He goes around in his ads playing macho with long sentences. You know, well, of course I want the criminals punished, but my mind, I would rather save money. I would rather save money. So let's go from a prevention. Let's find the programs that are successful, like the Mesquite Police, who have midnight basketball that Gingrich made fun of and is working very well among other programs, and reach the kids in the early elementary stages before they start going the wrong way.
How about your stance on public television?
I'm a very strong supporter of PBS for the simple reason is there's very few stations that you can watch that you're being educated without curse words, without heavy sex scenes, and PBS is one of those. So I'm quite the opposite of Phil Gramm and Gingrich in terms of supporting the...
Now, the opposite end of public television, commercial television, we haven't seen commercials. Are there any coming?
Well, again, we're hoping that toward the end here, that October, we can get together enough money to get the message out. Otherwise, I have to hope that the people, again, who've been excited about our campaign are working very hard to reach the millions that are necessary.
And we hope that you'll come back and join us again before this is all over, at least for this campaign.
Well, I'd love to.
Thank you very much for coming in today.
Thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you. Okay, now Doris is with our next guest.